Hi, HR Nation. Welcome back to another episode of the HR Leaders Podcast, the show where we explore the future of work with industry experts and HR executives from the world's leading global brands. Today, we have a special guest on the show. We're joined by Bruno Cignacco, who's a lecturer, TEDx speaker, and author of the book, The Art of Compassionate Business. Welcome to the show, Bruno. How are you?
Thank you for your invite, Chris. Thank you very much. I'm very good. Thank you.
I couldn't believe that we're only kind of 30 minutes away from each other.
You're very near. Very nice. We're both in London. Nice city.
What brought you to London?
What brought me to London? Before I was living in Portugal for 1 year. I like the country, Portugal. I was living in Lisbon, but then this market is very small. And then I have some contact in London. And before moving, I made some contacts and also I developed some project and I moved to London. Very, very straightforwardly, no problem. So, and I speak English, so no problem with the language. And I also have some friends here in London, so it's a very nice city.
Now you're settled with the family?
I'm settled with my family. I have a fiancé here that supports me a lot, and also a small baby, 1 year and a half. Very nice, a bit naughty, but very, very nice baby. So it's called Angelos.
Amazing. My daughter's 2 years old, so she's
2 years.
Also
what is her name?
Robin.
It's very challenging. Being a father is very challenging, as you know, but we get on well with this baby. We try to give the best example, and I feel that the baby is very brilliant. What any father can say about the baby.
Okay. Before we go any further, tell everyone a little bit more about you.
Okay.
Your background and experience.
My background. Okay. I can comment about it. Okay. Well, my background is very, very wide. And for example, I work as an accountant for nearly 10 years. Then I became an international trade consultant. I developed some projects, for example, international market strategy for some companies. I also research on international markets. I help companies become internationalized. I help companies go abroad for a long time, nearly for 10 to 20 years. And also I work at different institutions, higher education institutions here in London and worldwide. Also, I deliver different keynote speeches. I also develop consultancy activities lately over the last 5 years to different companies on compassionate business, which means, for example, developing a compassionate work environment, or, for example, strengthening the relationship with different stakeholders, and also being much more compassionate with compassionate customer relationship. And I think that this is very meaningful because I feel that many companies are not acting in a compassionate way. And I try to spread the word based on my research on compassionate entrepreneurship. And I feel that many companies can be both profitable, but also human-oriented. Many companies tend to focus on key performance indicators, and they forget about the relationship with different stakeholders, such as customer, employee, suppliers, community members.
Yeah. What is compassionate business? Explain that. And also, why is it so important?
Compassionate business is a very important label that includes many things. For example, compassion includes empathy, understanding how others feel, how others think. For example, try to support others when they have some difficulties. This can apply to the work environment. This can apply in practice also to the business environment in general. And we have to understand that we all have challenges in business, in life. And when companies act in a compassionate way, they avoid exploiting employees. They avoid manipulating customers. They avoid polluting the environment. They avoid firing employees mercilessly. These are examples of non-compassionate companies. Instead, when companies are compassionate, they try to support employees, for example, providing them with meaningful projects, recognizing their contribution to business projects, but also helping them enhance their skills. And also, when companies are compassionate, they try to also to support customers, try to allow them to make the best choice for them, and also allow them to select the products that are suitable for them, even when this represents not a big profit for the company. And when companies are compassionate, also they try to support the community, for example, making donations, or for example, supporting the community with training or resources. And also companies try to develop win-win agreements with everyone, with every single stakeholder. For example, suppliers, employees, community members, and the government too. So we call these stakeholders because when companies are compassionate, they recognize that they're interdependent with the stakeholders. They understand that they cannot succeed without the support of these stakeholders, because companies can only succeed when they strengthen this relationship with the stakeholders. And compassionate companies try to focus on the triple bottom line, which means focusing on profit, which are very important, but they also focus on social aspect of business. They try to strengthen, to brighten this relationship with the stakeholders, to care for customers, suppliers, employee, community members, but also companies try to care for the environment. This means profit, people, planet, the triple bottom line. Instead, when companies are not compassionate, they focus only on profit, on these key performance indicators such as profitability, productivity, efficiency. These indicators are always important, but we have to understand that these indicators are always the natural result of the interaction between a company and its stakeholders. So when a company strengthens this relationship with stakeholders, this indicator, profitability, productivity, efficiency, they tend to improve in a natural way, in an organic way.
Wow. That was a lot to take in there.
A lot to take.
I think it's now more important now than ever, right? Given the last 8 months that we've gone through. How have you seen companies respond? Are you happy and positive by what you're seeing, or have you, or not?
I saw both examples. I saw examples that are acting in a compassionate way, and I saw examples that companies that are acting in a non-compassionate way. I won't mention the name of the companies, but everyone knows, you can see this in the news, companies that fire employees when they have the first difficulties. They don't even give a compensation to these employees. Employees that supported this company for a long time, they have been discarded like obsolete pieces of this organizational machinery. This is not good, because this creates a very bad company's image. And in some cases, companies develop an environment, a work environment of fear. Employees are fearful of being fired. Employees are being fearful of being laid off. And this is not good. This creates lack of what we call psychological safety. Psychological safety is when the employee can feel at ease, can feel relaxed, can be creative. They don't feel threatened. When the employee do not feel threatened, these employees tend to feel much more at ease, but also they tend to think much more creatively. Their discerning skills are enhanced. Instead, when employees are threatened because they feel that they might be fired, these employees tend to also focus on the threat. This means being fired, for example. But also I saw companies that act in an opposite way. For example, companies that have flexible work hours, companies that have, for example, online meetings once a week, only to talk about personal issues. This is very good, because they're not talking about work projects. They're not talking about, for example, entrepreneurial ventures, but they're only talking about how they feel, how they think about this pandemic, how they can cope with this pandemic, if they have some family problem, if they have some child issues, or, for example, child care issues. Some companies, for example, like Patagonia, they have a nursery in the workplace that the people that work there, they can leave their children there without paying anything additionally. This is an example of a compassionate company. Why? Because childcare in some cases is very challenging during the pandemic. But also many companies also train employees to enhance their skills, but also to develop new skills. Companies during the pandemic the one that act in a compassionate way, try to develop employee skills and try to provide these employees with projects that are meaningful to them. Because we see many companies, the non-compassionate ones, that tend to bore employees. They tend to make these employees work in repetitive tasks, repetitive projects. This is not motivating for employees. Employees tend to be bored, feel demotivated, and tend to leave this company when possible. Instead, other companies tend to support employees, enhancing their skills, providing these employees with positive feedback. I see a lot of companies that are providing employees with positive feedback. What is positive feedback from the compassionate perspective? Providing with employees with what they did well in the past, a historical of what they did well in the past, but also showing how this employee can improve in the future, not only focusing on the negative aspect, the mistake or the setback, but also focusing on how they can improve. This means change-oriented, but also focusing on ways to support this employee through mentoring, through on-the-job training, or, for example, job rotation, coaching, shadowing, any type of training that could be suitable for these employees. I see many companies that during the pandemic invested a lot on employees training, and also allows employees also to work in other areas, what we call job rotation, so that employees can feel much more motivated and they can expand their horizon regarding the work environment.
You already mentioned some really good practical things just then that people can do, but any others, any practical things that people can do to be more compassionate towards your employees? What are some simple things that people can do?
Simple things, being more generous and grateful. These are two principles that I mentioned in my book. Gratefulness and generosity go hand in hand. How you can be more grateful in a work environment? For example, when employees contributed a lot to the work project, recognizing this employee publicly if possible and also overtly. How you can recognize this employee? For example, with a thank you note, handwritten and hand signed when possible. But also you can support this employee with offering them a bonus or an economic compensation. In some cases, you can provide this employee with additional training, free training, or you can provide the employee with some specific benefits. But also being generous implies not only focusing on getting. Many companies tend to focus on getting much more employee productivity, getting much more profit, getting much more market share, getting much more customer. And there should be a balance between getting and giving. Companies that are thriving are the ones that are generous. They give, for example, free gifts to customers, they give free training to employees, they give free benefit to employees also, but also in some cases, the employees are not only focusing on economic aspect. They can give a free year when employees need some help from this company. They can give, for example, free advice or a free set of contacts to this employee to thrive. So companies should have a balance between getting and giving. So because it's like breathing, you need to inhale and exhale. The same applies, this natural principle applies to businesses. Companies should focus on getting and giving. Another principle is being much more understanding of the challenges that employees could have, and also developing what I call in my book natural conversation. What are natural conversation? Conversation that can be based on business topics that are important for the work environment, but also conversation that are focused on non-business topics. For example, emotion, dreams, expectation, projects. These are important. Why? Because we are all human beings. We all have challenges, we have expectation, we have setbacks, we have success, we have some challenges, and we have a common humanity. And if we do not understand, if managers do not understand that before being an employee, we are all human beings, they are focusing only on the role, a very tiny part of the human being. We should expand our view of the employees, considering them not only as human capital, which is a very nice word, but also as a human being that has the legitimate right to be acknowledged and their needs to be met. So how you can do this? Saving some time during the work time to conversation that could be informal, casual, where employees can connect to one another on an emotional and mental level. They can develop trust and cooperation bonds. There is very famous research that observed, according to Barsade and O'Neill, that if you have a compassionate work environment, a loving work environment, the employee satisfaction tend to go up, employee absenteeism tend to go down, and employee stress level tend to go down, employee productivity tend to go up, and all these indicators impact positively on the bottom line, which means profit. So being compassionate is correlated to being profitable. So companies have to understand that the building brick of any work environment, any business environment is the human being. Companies should focus less on quantitative aspects of business, such as profit, market share, sales, and focus more on qualitative aspects of business, such as companionship, cooperation, camaraderie, support. And being compassionate is not a new topic. Daniel Goleman, the author of the book Emotional Intelligence, observed that compassion is one of the key factors of emotional intelligence, which implies recognizing our own emotions overtly and wisely, but also developing long-term, mutually beneficial and compassionate relationship with different stakeholders. So being more generous, being more understanding, being more grateful, but also developing this human relationship with different stakeholders, including employees.
Mm-hmm. One of the big challenges, Bruno, I'm seeing from a lot of our listeners, though, and especially the HR executives I speak to, is how to communicate this. Now that we're in this virtual environment, what are some kind of pieces of advice, but also some mistakes that you see companies are making when it comes to communicating with employees, especially now it's, as I said, it's in this virtual environment.
Very important, very, very important. What I see that many managers and leaders, they focus only on goal-oriented communication. This means that they take an employee as a means to an end. So for example, they talk to this employee for this employee to carry out this project. This is an instrumental communication. This means that we consider others as an instrument to achieve our goals. What I suggest that there should be a different type of communication, what we call a much more human-oriented communication. We do not consider others as a means to an end. We consider others as an end themselves. This changes the whole communication. This means that you are trying to appreciate others as human beings, as valuable resources. And I don't like to use the word resources because in some cases resources can be used and abused, but we take them into account as the most important factor in a company. Why they're the most important factor? Because they're a meta resource, a resource that generates other resources such as products, services, ideas, projects, developing new markets. If we do not care for these resources, for this asset, for this human capital, this human capital will look for other job opportunities. So we have to care on a continuous basis. And the best way to care for these human beings is acknowledging and recognizing their needs. Employees do not have only economic needs. Many managers believe that employees have only economic needs, a good salary, like a stable job. This is important, but employees have other needs that should be acknowledged by managers during their communication process. For example, they need to be creative. They don't need only a stable job. They need to be creative, enhance their creative skills. They need to use their talents. They need to feel recognized. They need to feel respected and acknowledged, and they need to be safe. They don't want to feel threatened. I see a lot of work environments that are fearful, full of fear. They are obviously, people are threatened, feel threatened, and they are very competitive. You can see there the dark side of politics, people trying to outpace one another, people trying to backbite others, people try to develop some turf wars, people try to develop some one-upmanship activities. Not good. Managers are in charge to develop much more loving and much more compassionate work environment, which means everyone should feel at ease. There should be no tight deadline that do not allow employees to have this work-life balance, but also employees should be enhanced because the projects that are offered to these employees should be connected to their innermost skill and talents. So communication should intertwine all these things. For example, considering the human being, enhancing employees' capabilities, natural capabilities, recognizing them on a continuous basis. A relationship needs to be nurtured. You cannot recognize employees only once. Employees will tend to give their best, will tend to go the extra mile when employees are recognized on a continuous basis. Instead, when employees are not recognized, for example, with a simple thank you note, employees tend to be resented. They tend to withdraw, tend not to cooperate. There is a very famous principle called the principle of reciprocity, of the law of reciprocity, mentioned by Robert Cialdini, that observe when you treat others in a compassionate way, in a loving way, they tend to respond in a similar way, in a reciprocal way. Instead, when you treat others in a non-compassionate way, this means dismissive way or arrogant way, these others will tend to withdraw, tend not to cooperate, and in some cases tend to resent this treatment. So we have to develop a very important set of relationship, a network of relationship in the work environment and in the business environment so that we can rely on each other, because no company can succeed by itself. No company can thrive on its own. Company need these employees, company needs suppliers, need community members, business partners. We're all interdependent in business. So if we treat others in a compassionate way, this relationship gets strengthened, and at the same time, these key performance indicators that are so important for business tend to be achieved in a very natural way.
Could you share some examples?
Yes, I can share some examples. Companies that are compassionate. For example, you have UPS is a company that is very compassionate. The courier company, that this company, obviously, from the work environment perspective, help employees take up college courses. So they help them take college courses, they get much more education. This is very important. So they're investing on employees. But also you have other example of companies, for example, Mindvalley, that is a company that develop personal development projects that allow employees to get access to books free, and they have some hours that are allocated for example, training, their own training. You have company like Google that everyone knows that they both employees allowed to devote part of their time to thinking in a creative way. You have company like Innocent Drinks that they have a work environment here in London that has some table tennis sets. This is very useful. Why? Because employees can wind down, they can let their hair down, they can connect on a social and emotional and mental level, and they're not only focusing on productivity, but they're focusing also on playfulness, on connection, human connection. These are a few examples that I can mention. There are many more.
I think many of the workplaces of the future are going to be, you go to the physical location to collaborate.
Collaborate. Yeah, why is so important collaboration? I have a full chapter that I explore this in detail. Collaboration is the opposite to competition. When you collaborate, you support one another, you respect one another, you acknowledge diversity and inclusion. Collaboration is not very common in many business environments. Why? Because you see the dark side of politics. One-upmanship, turf wars, all these negative behaviors are opposite to collaboration or cooperation. Cooperative projects also help employees support one another. They feel contained, they feel supported, they can learn from one another. Everyone contribute with their own skills. So this is inclusive, not only collective. Instead, in many work environments, you see competition. Competition is based on fear, it's fear-based. Why? Because there will be one winning at the expense of others. The compassionate approach on business is that there should be a win-win relationship. This means that employees should win, managers should win, customers should win, and also all the other stakeholders should win. I always advise managers in this way. Any decision that you make, you should be aware of this question. Is this developing a win-win relationship with the many stakeholders? If not, I should avoid making this decision. Even this decision might be profitable. We should always acknowledge different stakeholder needs, because by doing so, we strengthen this interdependence, we strengthen these different ties or bonds with different stakeholders. Instead, when we try to beat others in the work environment, an employee try to beat others or try to get all the merit, in this case, this creates resentment and also create a fear-based work environment with lack of psychological safety. We do not want this, because we need a cohesive, inclusive, and interconnected work environment.
Mm-hmm. I've certainly worked in companies that unfortunately have that model.
You have, yeah, we have all seen this. We have all seen this. Not good.
In sales, you know, let's say.
In sales, very bad. Well, in sales, you know what is, I observe in sales that many companies give these sales people scripts. They don't allow them to be natural. They have scripted stories.
That was me.
They have to read a script, and obviously customers don't feel that they're natural, and customers are less likely to buy. But also they use an approach that we call hacksterism. Hacksterism means that they try to push products that are the one not more suitable for customers. They're the one that will generate more profit or more commission for the salespeople. So they're not customer oriented. They're companies oriented, and customers realize this. And in those cases, what they do, they switch from this company to other companies. So this is not good. Salespeople are very threatened by this type of stratagems that are manipulative stratagems. And when they realize this, they tend to leave the company and look for other job opportunities because they don't feel natural. They don't feel that their job is meaningful. Meaningfulness is a very important point in any compassionate environment. Employees should feel that they're contributing to something bigger, a purposeful mission, a meaningful mission. That means that this company is helping the environment, is helping customers, is helping the community, is supporting other companies. That will be, for example, some partnership with other companies should create some positive change. If the employees do not feel that they're contributing to something bigger, they tend to be demotivated. There is a lot of research on this, that the employees that are have a very good salary, a very high salary, tend to leave the company. Even they have this condition, but this good condition, when they feel that they're not contributing to meaningful purpose. So companies should also develop a meaningful purpose, something that is connected to this triple bottom line: caring for profit, caring for people, caring for the planet.
Mm-hmm. I was going to get to the triple bottom line, and now you're there. you already got there. I was the same as well. Like in the company I worked at, I was very well paid, in a great role. But one of the reasons I left was I was in the same company for 10 years, and I didn't feel like. All right, I always say this. I remember seeing the Simon Sinek TED Talk, Start With Why, and the Golden Circle, right? And I couldn't answer the question. What is the purpose of the work that I do, and why I spend more than half my life in this office? And
So important.
I couldn't stop thinking about it, because I was like, why am I doing this? And then that was when I left.
Well, this was good decision, because you know what? Work take up most of the employees' life. And if you're not doing something meaningful, employees might feel that they're wasting their lives. So many companies not only do not have a meaningful purpose, but at the same time, they make employees overwork on things that are meaningless. This is the worst scenario. Companies should highlight the meaningfulness of their purpose on a continuous basis, but also they should hold some event, develop some event where employees are recognized on a continuous basis, and the employee daily tasks are connected in a very explicit way to this purpose. So companies should show how this activity that is performed on that day or that week connects in a positive way to that purpose. By doing so, employees not only feel acknowledged, but feel also value. Employees need to feel value, acknowledged, respected. When a company act in this way, these employees tend to go the extra mile, tend to cooperate, tend to develop even new ideas to contribute to this meaningful project. Instead, when companies offer only repetitive tasks, meaningless tasks, mechanical tasks, you see employees are repeating once and again, every day is the same as the previous one, well, these employees will get bored, their thinking skill will be temporarily impaired, their creative capability will be suffocated by this boredom, and this employee will look for other job opportunities, because they feel that even they might be paid a very good salary, they're not enhancing their skills. Yeah. So this is very important point.
Mm-hmm. Before we wrap up, Bruno, if there's sort of one parting piece of advice that you want people to take away, because you've covered such a lot of great advice and information, but if there's kind of one thing you want companies to take away,
yeah, I want companies to, very important question, I want companies to ask themselves some self-reflection question. For example, leaders and any employee working for a company should ask themselves, how can I be more generous in this workplace? How can I be more thankful in this workplace? How can I be more compassionate and understanding in this workplace? This question widen your awareness. When you ask this question on a continuous basis, you will find the answer. How can I develop a much more loving, much more compassionate workplace? How can I develop a workplace where people feel at ease, where there is psychological safety? These are questions for self-reflection that expand awareness. I feel that these skills, wrongly called soft skills, developing compassionate relations with that, are the most important skills, are even more important in my opinion than hard skills. Skill about your expertise, your knowledge, because remember, business is about relationship. This question will help you enhance your awareness and develop win-win agreement, win-win relationship with different stakeholders.
Amazing. And where can people reach out to you if they want to say hello or grab a copy of the book? Where can they go?
Thank you very much. Well, they can find my website, www.brunocignacco.com, or they can find my book, The Art of Compassionate Business, that is a best-selling book that is sold worldwide, online or offline, for example, online, Amazon, or any other bookshop online.
Amazing. Well, look, thank you so much for taking
the time out to
join us. I think the work that you're doing is more important now than ever.
Thank you very much. I feel very honored to have been invited here. Thank you.
No problem. Well, look, for everyone listening, if you click the link below, there'll already be the links to Bruno's book and the website already in there for you to make things easier. If you enjoyed the episode, please like, comment, share, subscribe. Send this to colleagues that you feel would gain value from the episode. Apart from that, enjoy the rest of your day, Bruno. And I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you. Thank you again.